A good while back, Grindstone came across a deal in Alienware Arena, promising us access to an MMO published by Bandai Namco, and told only the name Project New Sky. Thoughts raced, wondering what kind of game we could possibly be seeing. Thinking, why not, we downloaded the code and fired the game up, and got tossed right into the character creator, only for Kurochi to just say, "Hey, these kinda look like golf outfits." And then the golf clubs came out. Checking back into the thread on Alienware Arena was like watching the ending of Soylent Green. Project New Sky is golf! It's golf! I don't exactly mind golf games, and I remember liking what I saw enough, but an NDA-heavy secret beta wasn't exactly the best place to be making any judgments. So, let's see how this super secret golf game shaped up now that it's publicly available. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at Project New Sky Winning Putt. Winning Putt, as it's now known, is a, well, golf game using more realistic looks and settings than something like Panya or Mario Golf, obviously, but still takes some refuge in the absurd, like having a golf course take place on the moon, with no physics changes, because that would have been interesting. Shit, am I showing my hand too early? I don't have much more to say about this, considering most of you have already shut the video off, so let's get moving before I lose the rest of you. One of this game's sorest thumbs, and the first thing you're likely to notice, is what we've come to call Baby Arm Man, who could act as the game's mascot if there was anything that could fit that role. Honestly, the proportions on this drawing are all so off on his left arm that we ended up just cracking jokes, like if the guy was excited for playing a particularly good round of golf, or he was just shouting at the heavens and cursing his unfortunate genetic disease. There may or may not have been some Deadpool references thrown in as well. Typical day in Grindstone, really. The game itself surprised us, but not in the good way. With how it looks just being a golf game, you wouldn't expect that much is needed in terms of optimization. Well, surprise! The game runs very poorly and has a pretty serious memory leak, and oftentimes has such low quality assets and texture work that are so hastily pasted in that we had over an hour in the streams just showing off all the cracks. What made it even better is that this is yet another game that proudly boasts the use of a specific engine, without the talent to do something with it.
Achieved with Cryengine.
In general, the game ends up looking far uglier than it really should. Granted, yes, this isn't some high-octane arena shooter where you need perfectly crisp frame rates while dozens of people fire rockets and throw grenades. It's just golf. Yet the game just looks so low quality for what the engine can handle, and much of that seems to be poorly applied generic engine placeholders as well. Does this game actually have music? It does. Well, you'd be hard-pressed to notice it, as honestly it feels like only the golf course plaza and the whole transition seem to offer any. What you'll mostly be listening to are the rather decently done sounds of golfing and nature throughout the game. This certainly puts it in stark contrast with Panya, which was very bombastic, and to be honest, a little bit goofy with its sound work, while Winning Putt just goes for a far more realistic sounding style. Unfortunately, this brings us to the voice acting, which certainly proves to be one real struggle for this game. Somehow the voice work is wooden, awkward, and yet overly enthusiastic at the same time. This truly is one of those special gem titles where you just stare dumbfounded at the various NPCs for a second or two while your brain processes what you just heard.
A cup of coffee, a book of poetry, and stormy clouds. Perfection in my book.
I definitely saw Joe pass by.
Do you like animals? I seem to have too many of them showing up in my house.
I wish I were as popular as Antonio, or Caro, or Claire.
Let's just dive right in, as the game does, with the game's character creator. There won't be too many options to play with here, though you can easily make yourself a rather obese golfer. Just don't expect much in the way of hairstyles or color choices, or really much else outside of the sliders. In essence, the real way to distinguish your character from others will be through the various outfits in the game, but this opens an entire new can of worms we'll discuss later. Honestly, just go in expecting to find some clones of yourself, and you won't be all that disappointed by what's on offer here, even if there really should have been a lot more of a choice. After making your particular meatbag analog, you'll be presented with a choice between 3 different classes. I mean 2 different classes. For whatever reason, Balanced is grayed out, even after release, and you'll have to play either Power or Accuracy. From Grindstone's experience in the game, Power seems to be the only useful choice, as Accuracy didn't give any real noticeable benefit, while the ability to drive the ball farther was very handy for getting beneath par. Once your choice has been made, you'll be put into the tutorial, which will run you through some basics of the game and explain many of the game's odd mechanics that can come into play. This is where you'll learn that item usage can play a vital role in the game, and that you really need to practice putting. For your typical golf swings, there's the standard swing bar that fills up to the right for the amount of power, before coming back to the left to dictate your accuracy. It should be noted that the game will automatically try to pick the right club for the situation, but this is removed on higher difficulties, which we found out the hard and hilarious way. There's also an annoying habit of the bar picking up speed at either end, so be careful with that. But it's the putting that has the highest chance of ruining your score. It doesn't matter how flat the putting green looks, all that matters is what the putting grid will tell you, which is determined by white markings on each box moving in various directions. It can help to think of these as conveyor belts, with the speed of the white dots indicating how extreme the pull on the ball will be in that direction. Though don't be surprised if you find boxes that show movement on only one side, indicating that only half of that box will be pulled that way. Speaking for myself, I find the dots in the squares system from Pangea far easier to read, but Dresker has the exact opposite opinion, so it really just comes down to your personal taste on how useful this putting grid would be. So you might be thinking, wait, is that it? Well, no, there is character progression, stats, and levels to keep in mind, along with quests to help you earn experience and gold for use in various shops. Progression comes mostly in the form of gaining levels to equip better clubs or to further increase your stats through the use of a rather Facebook-style leveling system. Simply open your management with H, go to Skills, and pick which one of the stats you'll have access to that you want to increase for one level for the price of some gold, before waiting the required amount of time for that to complete. Once your stats are high enough, you'll be automatically granted various skills to actually use when you're playing the game, with some being universal and others being very specific to your class. And many have debuffs to them, so make sure to look over them carefully to determine if the situation calls for it. When you do decide to use a skill, it'll consume set amounts of your mentality and stamina, both of which will deplete normally through play, as well as can be recovered by finishing holes well or using your items. Should your mentality get low, your swing speed bar will rapidly increase in speed, making precision chip-ins all but impossible, both for hitting at the appropriate power and in terms of accuracy. If stamina gets low, you'll no longer be able to hit at 100% power, until you've recovered enough. Fortunately, like the stats mentioned above, you can increase these two to give you a better buffer, but only once you hit level 15. Outside of this, the equipment itself will have various stats, with higher level equipment naturally offering better stats, though be warned there are different subtypes that focus on either power, accuracy, or tempo. No, these stats won't ever properly be explained to you, and at least Grindstone has consistently failed to find anything that would explain them, but some are self-explanatory. You can increase the gear's quality as well by going to the crafting or enchanting specialist, where you'll spend special bolts for a random chance to level up your gear and its stats. The higher up in quality you go, the more likely you'll receive a failure if you're trying to enhance your gear. Furthermore, you can equip better bags and caddies to give you more item slots or bonuses while you play, but yet again we'll cover that a bit later, and you can probably tell where this is going at this point. So, what sort of people can you expect to find in a golf MMO? Well, as it turns out, meme lords everywhere. Offensive names, funny names, misspelled mean names, with regular names being in a small minority. Dresker logged into winning Putt for the first time ever and was met with this as the first person they ever saw. So yeah, prepare yourself. For the most part, you'll never have to worry about these other players, either queue up solo or bring some friends along and you can just go about your day. It can be rather amusing to spend a bit of downtime between golf courses simply running around and picking out all the oddball names that you can find. As for their interactions with each other, well, things are mostly quiet until it's discovered that someone actually paid for playing the game, and then the chat seems to get aggressive. This is one of those communities that goes out of their way to name and shame those who would pay for advantages within this game, and they take it as a personal pride point when they manage to best said players. This isn't contained to the game itself either. If you look up the forums or user reviews for the title, you'll experience one overwhelming point of view, so let's just dive right into that. we're just gonna come right out and say it. This is perhaps the single most pay-to-win title we have experienced to date. There is no real arguing against it. There's no gray area or sliding scale of opinion on what constitutes pay-to-win for each person. As we've always said, our definition of pay-to-win is anything that requires actual money to give a clear statistical advantage to one person over another. And boy are these advantages enormous should you choose to pay winning Putt. Do you want to hit the ball further than anyone else? Cash shop it. Do you want clothing that gives you stat bonuses instead of just cosmetics? Cash shop. These aren't even minor differences where we can bring up pay to win as a technicality, but huge gaps in power from the free players who choose to become wallet warriors. There's food you can purchase with in-game cash that will boost your power by 40. You can increase that by yet another 40 with real money. You can buy specialized golf balls that can travel further or will roll less. Costumes will grant 8 extra stamina and mentality while giving 4 additional points to power and accuracy. It's frankly rather ridiculous. This is to say nothing of the usual lucky boxes that are scattered everywhere, including most hilariously non-premium items that'll cost a fortune to get with in-game currency, that'll only come in with the luck of the draw. The other real shame of it is that a lot of this stuff runs on the high side, with the minimum you can purchase being $10 worth of platinum, totaling 5,000 bars, which can get you a shirt or maybe a pair of pants with a little bit extra left over. Given our discussion earlier about how the game runs and looks, it's hard to see this as being worth it, and honestly seems to be the unanimous opinion of those who play the game to shout how greedy the company is from the rooftops. You know something's wrong when your player base is actually naming and shaming anyone that uses your cash shop. Winning Putt is not a great replacement for many online golf games. I was expecting something polished and feeling a lot more like a next-gen offering, especially if Bandai Namco was willing to attach their name to it. But instead, what we got seemed to be a poorly structured, rather bland-feeling experience. Still, the game has its fans and merits, so if you really want to try it out for yourself, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Here's my final rating. While online and video game golfing tends to teeter towards the side of wackiness, winning Putt remains mostly grounded in reality, with more standard-feeling ball physics, sounds, and courses. Don't well actually me about the moon base. It's an exception, not the norm. Since the game has a more realistic approach, it might attract those looking for something where you don't play as a superpowered 11-year-old pirate girl who can make golf balls fire into the ground with a thunderous explosion. The game features progression in spades, far more than others I've played, giving you options to upgrade clubs and caddies, as well as individual stats and skills. At least the game grants you more things to do as you play it, especially if just playing golf matches isn't enough for you. It's nice that there are so many play modes, allowing for very interesting quick play mode, a few different styles of matches, and plenty of achievement-style missions to help give you some variety, even if it all boils down to hitting a ball with a stick, 'cause, golf. Definitely gonna make mention of this again, but if you need a boost to your gameplay, like a longer drive, better stats, or even the ability to see where your ball is going when driving or putting on harder difficulties, cash will set you up. Yeah. Oddly though, the cosmetic choices are simultaneously bland and overpriced, many being alternate color options, with the cash-paid options granting you stat boosts. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get apologists because I know they exist, but whether or not you're extremely skilled at this game, there is no denying that purchasing a cash shop item will give you a useful and noticeable advantage in the game, and cementing our most basic definition of pay to win. Even if the community rejects it, and actively celebrates and brags about victories over those who've dropped tons of cash, it's still a very real thing the game lets you do, and that comes with its own problems. You can easily avoid this issue if you stick to playing with friends, of course, but the specter looms large. Granted, if you do want to play, the game just might not run to your desired performance, if at all. It's odd that a game that looks and plays this basic seems to have such a hard time on so many computers. Playing for even more than a few rounds of golf seems to make the game run worse by the second. Bad performance in the game will affect your gameplay, especially with the fickle nature of the swing slider when making your shots. Still with us? I expect more than a fair share of people not to click on this review simply because of its subject, and I didn't shamelessly shoehorn in any busty redhead friends of mine into this golf game video. Golf seems to have a stigma that I honestly don't understand, and the people who refuse to play anything involving it are vast and numerous. So, yeah, it's not done in any sort of clever way that would likely make you want to start playing golf games more often. Possibly quite the opposite, really. Next time, still pretty up in the air, but we've got things planned. I am kinda bummed out this game turned out the way it did, though, but hey, at least we still have Pangya. Wow, 2016 really is kind of a shit year, isn't it? It's sad how often I forget to record these things until it's too late, but thanks for sticking around to the end of the credits. Left Window will take you to the very unviewed episode on The Crew. I guess absolutely nobody gave a crap. But hey, it's a Ubisoft car game that's not entirely terrible, provided you like Ubisoft and car games. The Right Window will take you to the very untranslated Revelation Online, a side quest I did not too long ago for a very, very early beta for a game that's... I have no idea when it's out. I thought it might have been the December episode, but I don't think they're even close enough to that. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do so with show updates with @MMO_Grinder, or if you want to hear my insane ramblings, you can go check out @ChaosD1. I also have one of those Patreon things people do, so go ahead and check that out if you're so inclined to give me money for something that's free. And of course, the card pops up quite often, but not too often does anyone really seem to check it out. But when people ever ask me, hey, what do you really think of this game? Here's where you'll want to go, mmogrinder.net, check out the posting of this video on that site, and you'll see a little article underneath the video posting to let you know what every single person in Grindstone, myself included, thought of this game. And I mean really thought, no holds barred. None of that objectivity shit's gonna fly over there. And if you're wondering why I say Grindstone so often like it's some sort of thing, well, it is. We've got a Discord, and you can find out everything you need to know over at mmogrinder.net. And once again, I'd like to give my monthly shout-out to Slipstream, who's still working on his new show and trying to get it retooled, so go ahead and check out his update progress over at notokensrequired.com, and if you want some more direct updates, you can also follow him on Twitter at notokensrec. R-E-Q, not W-R-E-C-K.